5 sets of gleaming white teeth all of a sudden in that dark glaring at me, and they are shouting, "Genia! Genia, we love you!" These are the miners that I have been working with. I am working in the 3rd largest platinum mine in the world. They are my clients. These individuals had been in a leadership program with me over a 4-day period where we began to confront some of the issues of the mining operation in post-apartheid Africa. One could say that over those 4 years that I was there, not only did we do the work of transforming how they related to the mining industry, but we also transformed people in the surrounding communities. We worked with union workers. One could say that we touched over 300,000 lives in those 4 years. It's the field of transformation. So let me say a little bit about what is transformation. Well, transformation is not about change. It really is about altering how you see life, altering your view of life. When you alter your view of life, what you literally do is you're altering how you relate to your circumstances. You are altering the way in which you view your past. You are altering the way in which you view yourself and the people in your life. One could say that literally your history is transformed in that moment because you see things through a new set of eyes. And that's what we do. That's what I do for a living. See, I get my work done in a matter of days. I get things done that traditionally take years to alter. One could also say that when people are in a situation where they're incapable of moving something that traditionally they want to move, they come and talk to me. And the reason why I'm here today is I'm going to talk to you about how you can do this too. You can have this same magic in your own life right now. As we speak, you can cause yourself to have sustainable happiness. So the conversation that I'm creating with you is going to take us kind of all over the world with different cultures and different people. So I really want you to kind of know that the reason why I do what I do is because I got connected to something at a young age. So the first stop on our journey today is a stop in Louisiana, specifically the cotton fields of Louisiana. That wasn't always this way. At one point, I was an introverted little girl, and I didn't particularly like playing with other boys and girls. What I liked to do was I liked to sit in the house and I liked reading my books. Yes, I did. And I loved sitting with my elders. I loved my grandmother, my mother, and my father. I loved them because they would tell me stories and I would listen to their stories. My grandmother told me about a time when she was in the cotton fields chopping cotton as a sharecropper. My grandmother was 1 generation away from slavery. And how she worked so hard in those fields and toiled in the fields. And how she was told that the woman that was chopping cotton right next to her was her sister, only to discover when she died that that wasn't her sister at all, that was her mother. And I listened to my dad tell me stories about how he would avoid walking along the open roads of Louisiana at night to avoid lynching, specifically because he had to walk my mother home from the movies at night. So, you know what, the truth is I didn't have any interest in being an extrovert, quite frankly, after hearing those dadgum stories. I was actually fine just being at home with my family who had managed somehow to survive. I had no interest of stepping outside of that house inside of a dangerous world. But then something happened to me, and I got to tell you, I got connected at an early age, and we all get connected at a very early age. I want you to know that. At an early age, when my dad would take me to church on Sunday and my mother, there was this voice that kept coming up, and it kept coming up, and it kept coming up. And this little voice kept saying to me, "Come, come, and I will make you fishers of men. Come, come, I will make you fishers of men." Man, I love that. I was like, that is so cool, because I knew then that my destiny was calling to me. I knew that my life was going to be about bringing forth leadership in the world. That's who I am. And so over the years, I began to develop myself as a student, to be somebody who could be with people and not just with my books in that little corner in the house. Can you dig that? So anyway, my journeys took me at one point to this country called Finland. So interesting that John talked about Finland being the second happiest country in the world, because it is. I went there to tutor. And I get off the plane and get to the village that I'm working in. It's one of the most beautiful, pristine countries in the entire world. It's the first time I saw the aurora borealis. It was so lovely. It took my breath away. But Finland also took my breath away. And I had a dramatic turn in my life at this point, because that's when I discovered I wasn't going to just be a tutor in that village. I was going to have one of those head-spinning transformations. So I'm in Finland. I go inside of this public sauna, and I'm sitting in the sauna, and, they're staring at me. And these girls, I could tell they took all their courage to get up, their courage to be able to speak to me. And they come over and they said, "Miss Jean, can we touch your hair? Can we touch your skin? We think you're beautiful. We wish we weren't so pale. We wish we had that pretty brown skin." That just rocked my world. In America, nobody ever said that about me. And I was so moved. And of course, I let them touch my hair and my skin, and we became friends in that sauna, and we started to talking. And they started asking me all these questions. They said, "Jean, how come y'all kill your presidents?" And they said, "How come they don't like black people?" And then they said, "Was President Lincoln shot because he freed the slaves?" I mean, no one ever asked me that stuff either. So I thought, wow, I've never had to think like this before. And I sat there and I thought, and I would, really consider what they said. I wouldn't speak too fast. And then I spoke to them and I told them what I thought. And then they said, "Well, we have the same issue too." I said, "What issue do you have?" And they said, "Well, Jean, we're despised too. The Swedish people don't love us. They say that we're uncouth and we're filthy." Boy, I got to tell you, I couldn't hardly wrap my mind around that, because the Swedes and the Finns look exactly the same. I was like, what? You're blonde, they're blonde. You got blue eyes, they got blue eyes. You got pale skin, they got pale skin. What's up with this? But it transformed me, and I'm going to tell you why, because that's when I got that the conversations that you and I are embedded in, they're universal. You go all over the world, what you will find out is that one group of people doesn't like another group of people. One group of people dislikes a group of people because they don't fit or they don't match their view. That's when I begin to consider that you and I inherit conversations. We're born into things. We didn't make up the stuff we got on this planet. It was already there. It really did blow my mind, because I got real clear about this stuff, this bias, this discrimination was not personal to me. I got to tell you, I was able to forgive a lot of stuff that day, because it had nothing to do with me. I thought that the death and the murder and the hatred was against my dad. It wasn't. It's what we do when we don't examine the conversations that are already existing in our world. You with me? So what do I mean by inherited conversations? Well, I'm basically just saying that I was born Christmas Day in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Yes, I was. And the moment I was born and that doctor picked me up and slapped me on that bum, he said, "We have here a Negro baby girl." The moment he said those words, it defined who I was. Negro has a particular set of conversations that go with it. Baby girl has a specific set of conversations that go with it. No one has a choice about that. We know who we are, do we not? When you say gay, straight, black, white, Jewish, doctor, teacher, there is a world that goes with that, yes? That's when I really got that who I am and what my mission is the emancipation of all human spirit. That's who I am. The opportunity was to begin to work with people all over the world to disappear these dadgum conversations that are stopping us from belonging together, because we belong together. And then years later, yes, we do. And then years later, here I am in South Africa. And I walk into the room, and as I'm walking up to lead my first leadership program, a white Afrikaner, a white South African, he spit at me. And the moment he spit, I felt this rage and this anger come up in me that I didn't realize I had. But then I was able to stop, and I was able to look in that man's eyes, like deep into his eyes, and I got something. I got he was afraid of me. And I got I was afraid of him. And I also got I'm much bigger than this. And together we worked through the next 4 days to develop ourselves to be human beings who get beyond these conversations. And we fell in love. So one could say that in Finland, what I got was that I wasn't just an American. Yes, I pledge allegiance to the flag. I am an American, and I love being an American. But I also love Finland. I loved Finland. Those Finns became my family. What I got was I had become a world citizen, a global citizen. I got that I could now pledge allegiance not just to America. I could pledge allegiance to all countries. I could pledge allegiance to the world, to every country. So I think the first thing I want you to kind of get, there's two things. Well, the first one we want to talk about here very quickly is, if you want to have sustainable happiness in your life, you must find a way to get connected to what matters to you, what you really value. That's the first thing. Do whatever it takes to get connected to that. That's happiness. That's something you can sustain because it'll be with you for the rest of your life, the gift that you're going to give the world. The second thing that I got out of this was that you must do whatever it takes to operate inside of your values, whatever it takes, to operate and be true to yourself. And that's what I got. What being true to myself is the emancipation of all human spirit. Nothing else is going to work here. So then finally, and it kind of brings us back to today. You know, the last few years I've been to many different countries, different cities, but ultimately where I ended up at was in Haiti. In the last 3 years, 2 times working in Haiti. I've never seen so much poverty in my life. The kind that makes your stomach turn. But something happened to me there too, because where I was working was up in the mountains. And up in the mountains, I worked in a small town, and it has valleys and mountains around it. I mean, the peace and the beauty there is beyond understanding. You can't quite wrap your mind around this in the 21st century. And yet there we were, up in there working with the Haitians. And I want to tell you, there's no urban sprawl up there, y'all. There's nothing up there but just the beautiful earth. Mother Nature. Watching boys on their mules going through town, you know, watching people playing with their kids. The peasants are out there. They're farmers. They call them peasants. And they're out there working their land, and they're having the best time in the world. And they're loving their families, and they're loving their communities. And then I go to Kenya. I'm working with a tea factory, and I'm up in the highlands, and I can smell that sweet smell of tea in the air. And I'm watching them go out and pick the tea. And they love their Kenya. They just love it. And you hear them singing in the fields. Here's what I want. I'm not trying to glamorize poverty. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that, for the most part, you and I think that our circumstances say whether or not we can have happiness. And I'm saying that's not the case. That's an illusion. Circumstances have no impact on us when we start to get that you can actually create the circumstances, take the circumstances that you have and use those circumstances to create an extraordinary life. Jackson Pollock said it once. He was being interviewed. He's a famous artist, and he was doing his paintings, and he likes to do that splash method, And then the reporter that was there that was interviewing him said to Jackson, "What do you do when you have an accident? Like you have a little splatter in the wrong place." Jackson said, "I deny the accident. I deny it." Well, what is he saying? He's basically saying there ain't no accidents in life. The circumstances you got are the circumstances you got. You got to get out there and wail with what you got and create something truly extraordinary. Deny the accident. So finally, I think the last thing to say is when you look at the people that I've been encountered with over the years, there's one thing that remains very, very true, that those people really did go serve. They served each other. They got their attention off themselves. They fell in love with each other and went out to make a difference. It has nothing to do with wealth. It has nothing to do with your station in life. It's got something to do with when I get my attention off myself and I get my attention on others, that is a ridiculously happy life. Service, contribution, and you've heard it all day long. And that's who we really are, or we're people that really want to make a difference and we want to contribute. And we want to have our lives matter. That's sustainable happiness. So I guess when you walk out of here today, there's some things I think you could do that I'd just like to say very quickly to complete my talk. When you go home tonight, I'm going to invite you to try on a couple of things. You ready? Say yes. So you want to get in touch with what you deeply care about. Get in touch with what you deeply care about. Then second, I want you to jot down some actions that you will take with regard to what matters to you. Just jot down a few actions you'll take. And then last but not least, I want you to take those actions. Just take them. I think you will be surprised and delighted with what you see. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be with you. The things I shared today are the things that matter most to me. And I really am honored and I'm privileged to be here today. Thank you for your attention.